people leaving the profession that's supposed to help them stop them. So if we don't have the counselors, how can we stop the problem? A shocking report finds that every year, nearly 1 in 4 substance abuse counselors decide to leave the field altogether. So why are they leaving, and where are they going? Joining us right now is a former drug addiction counselor, Melissa Chickering. She has a decade of experience in the field and has done a lot of great work. Melissa, welcome. Can you provide?
Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks for all you've done. Can you put a face behind the reason why people leave? Why did you get out of this?
Well, I think an important distinction to make is that I'm still a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and I also have a license in mental health counseling as well. And I think that it is common for substance abuse counselors to not necessarily leave the field altogether, but to move into positions that are administrative,
right,
or academia. Things like that, to move away from the one-on-one clinical work.
And a lot of it has to do because of the personal toll, right? You take on these people, their lives, and you use this, some people use the term compassion fatigue.
Yeah, and I think compassion fatigue is a real thing, and there's not enough education or support around that. But I also think a really important point is that addiction counselors have extensive training in working with addictions. We're not leaving the field, many of us are not leaving the field because addicts are difficult to work with. We're leaving the field because the system in which we're supposed to be working with really ties our hands to be able to do the work that we want to do, the work that we need to do.
Yeah, right. I mean, for example, not enough beds, not enough funding, not enough time into rehab, not enough facilities. And for you in particular, if you could shed the light on one story that you remember going home dealing with somebody that desperately needed to be put into a facility and start their rehab program, and they didn't have a bed available. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not uncommon. The people working in the field right now see it every day. But in a previous position that I was in, as the program director of a facility, I would do the interviews to help adolescents and teenagers come into treatment. And it would be heartbreaking at times because if you see a 17-year-old who's shooting heroin and their parents are begging you for a treatment bed, and you know that you have physically, the beds are open, but that 17-year-old doesn't have exactly the right funding source to get into treatment, they end up getting put on a waiting list. And one client in particular really needed the treatment bed, didn't have the right waiting list, was put on, or didn't have the right funding, was put on a waiting list for 6 weeks and died while they were on the waiting list. And that's not uncommon. It's not an unusual story.
Right.
It's not an uncommon story. And I think for the addiction counselors, then they're expected to, show up again at 9 a.m. the next day and continue listening and trying to get clients into treatment and
right,
hearing parents cry and all those things.
It's brutal, and they never get enough time in there because their insurance runs out, and usually you don't have a ton of money if you're addicted to substance because you've had a tough financial situation for the most part. And your counselors who do incredible work make on an average $40,000. So you put all those things together,
yes,
it's hard to keep it going.
It is. It's very hard to keep up the stamina to continue doing it.
Melissa Chickering, thanks so much. Appreciate what you've done and what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right, coming up straight ahead.